On this episode of Locked On Angels, it's FanMail Friday, and you wondered, now that he's good, should the Angels consider trading Tyler Anderson? And what could we get for him? We're going to talk about that and so much more. It's time to get locked on with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SiriusXM by searching Locked On Angels. And if you'd like to give back to the Super Halo Bros for all this Super Halo content, here's some things that you can do. Leave us a rate and a review on Apple Podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. And if you're not subscribed already, please subscribe and become a Locked On Everydayer. And whether you're watching or listening, come over to YouTube, leave a comment. It's one of the best ways to get in touch with us and be a part of the conversation. And today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. And right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started.
Happy Friday to you, and thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Mike, we're here talking Angels baseball 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, every morning, nice and bright and early in your feeds, whether that's YouTube or on podcast platforms. You can find us very early in the morning because we have people who listen, not just like on the East Coast, who want to catch us before they go to work, but like all over the world. So, Hey, shout out to you. Thank you for being an everydayer. Thank you from wherever you're listening. We appreciate you. Hey, on today's show, it's a Fan Mail Friday, one of my favorite days of the week because we just get to sit and talk Angels baseball and answer questions. In fact, we've got some good ones lined up for today, Mike, including some key decisions. Let me get into this question from Garrick's Apprentice on YouTube. How do you square the balancing act among fans who want to see the young team develop and improve their home record while also wanting other fans to stop attending games and spending money, hoping that it causes Arte to sell the team? Sounds to me like trying to have your cake and eat it. I'm in the mood for some cake. I'd imagine this team, if the team improves at home, naturally attendance will rise. Mike, I'm kind of the mind that we've already seen it, that Arte is one step ahead of us in terms of fans aren't going to show up. Fans are going to be upset. The attendance is going to decline, right? And we see the effects of that with not just the team payroll, but staff, workers, concession people, security has been an issue, right? And so it's more than just hitting Arte where it hurts in terms of your attendance. Because let's be honest, they've got the TV deal. They've got the merchandise deal. They've got all kinds of deals out there that are going to keep them afloat. And so in terms of balancing, where fans want to go to games and see games and support the guys, and I think that's the most important key here, and how do you reconcile that against Arte? There are lots of people who have drawn a hard line in the sand, not going, not giving him another dime. And I give props to those people because that's really noble. I don't think I could do it. I haven't gone to a game yet this season, but I do want to. And at the same time, it's because I really want to see these young guys play and I want to have a good time. My wife and I usually go, we have a good time. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. It just seems like they're just going to cut back in areas where they can if the attendance doesn't compensate for it. But what are your thoughts on the matter?
This feels like an integrity and honesty issue, honestly. And so if the Angels came out and said, hey, about 2 years, we're going to rebuild and we're going to run with the young guys, this stadium would have been full. I would be there more often. I know you would be there more often. And I think everydayers would be there more often because we're rooting on the guys who are potentially going to be the guys that are going to help this team get to the playoffs in 1, 2, 3 years. But the problem is that the narrative is, no, we're not rebuilding. However, we're going to have Guillorme play second base for us, right? And so I know that he came in because of injuries and all of those things.
Sure.
But
I hear
you. That's the reality is they're not investing in this team to make this team competitive. They're telling us we're going to win right now, and yet cutting payroll and cutting things back and not getting somebody to fill the slot that Ohtani left in the starting lineup. All of those things are just two different messages. So the way that I balance it is this. I've come to the conclusion that this is a rebuilding year. Even if the Angels say it's not, this is a rebuilding year. So I'm going to root for these young guys. And it's also why I would fight for like a Mickey Moniak to be in the lineup, even though Kevin Pillar is crushing it. I want to see Moniak in there more often because Moniak's going to be with this team a lot longer than Kevin Pillar. I want to see those young guys with the Trash Pandas come up and see what they can do and trade away some of those veterans that are in the bullpen right now and get some pieces for them, because this is a rebuilding year. We all see it. It just feels like it's don't watch what I'm doing in this hand while manipulate you with this hand, right? And that's how I kind of balance that. I would love Artie to sell because we're not getting honest communication from his organization. If they were honest and full of integrity, they would have said, this is what our plan is this year and next year. And I don't think that that would be a detriment to players coming here, nor would it be a detriment to fans wanting to show up, because you have a plan, and they've never had a plan, as far as I can tell, in the years that I've been supporting them.
Well said. I really appreciate your thoughts on that, because that's kind of an angle I hadn't thought about it from before. And to be honest, look, Artie has his money, and he's going to get his money when he sells this team, right? And so he's got plenty of it. It's only going to hurt the bottom line of the team itself. And the other issue that I think is important to point out is, if you really want Artie to hear it, it's at the games, and it's online, and it's booing him when he shows up in the video, and then having the Angels edit him out the very next day. You know what I mean? Like, that's where it's at. It's the comments. They get to him. They get to him, and I'm convinced of that.
Yeah.
Mike on Twitter
Not me.
said, not this Mike.
Another
You're
Mike.
barely on Twitter. Looking at our division, I see all the teams have a flaw. Some big, some small. But the West, nobody's running away with it. Can't help but feel if Rendon and Trouty were healthy, we might only be 3 or 4 back. Well, looking at the West, Mike, currently, as of this recording, Seattle's 27-24 in first place. The Rangers are 24-27, 3 games back. The Astros are 22-28, 4.5 games back. The Angels are 20-30, 6.5 back. And Oakland is 20-31, 7 games back. Mike, there's some stats here that kind of give us an indication of like where each team is sitting. They're just kind of general overall stats. Remember that hitting is OPS plus, where 100 is league average. Pitching is ERA plus, where 100 is league average. Would you share those notes there in terms of where each team is sitting in those categories?
Yeah, so Seattle, your favorite team, they are right now at a 99 OPS plus, which is the same as the Angels, ironically. And by the way, Nolan Schanuel has better slugging and home runs than Julio Rodriguez does right now. And he's having a really difficult year, and everybody isn't complaining about him. But for some reason, they're going to complain about Schanuel. So I'm going to defend him. I'm going to be the Schanuel defender from now on. How about that?
I like it.
And then pitching, they have a 105 ERA plus. So that's 5% above league average. They do really have a good pitching staff in Seattle. That starting rotation is pretty great.
Honestly, I'm surprised it's not more.
Right. That's like a low number, but because they have really good guys. Brian Wu and a lot of those guys up there are pretty fantastic. Then Houston comes in. They have a 118 OPS plus. That's the best in the league right now, Johnny. But they have just an 84 ERA plus, which is the worst in the league. Wow. So they're leading the league in both categories, in the best way and in the worst way, right? Texas comes in with a 101 OPS plus. They have a 93 ERA plus. Angels are at 92 for reference. So their pitching staffs have been about the same. Here's what's funny about that. The Rangers have Michael Lorenzen and Andrew Haney, so former Angels, performing very Angel-like, right? Yeah. And then, of course, Oakland, 96 OPS plus and an 88 ERA plus. And then the Angels are at 99 OPS plus, and they have a pitching staff at a 92 ERA plus.
So that gives you kind of a general overview of where everybody stands, and it kind of makes sense. I mean, pitching wins games, and Seattle currently has the best pitching in the division, even though it's not performing up to what you would expect from guys like Logan Gilbert and George Kirby and Luis Castillo. I think I saw Kirby was actually under 100 ERA plus, which I was shocked. Because coming into this year, I would have expected really great things from him. I don't know all the details there, but I know that hitting is always an issue for the Mariners. I know they split a series with the Yankees, but it just kind of seems par for the course. So really, I mean, look, 6.5 games back, that's quite the hill to climb, but it certainly has been worse and was worse earlier. But really, it feels like on May 24th, this is anybody's division at the moment, and that the Angels could make it interesting. But that's where I'll leave that. James Pack 2715 on YouTube said, "Hey, Halo Bros, with rumors of trading Tyler Anderson and how great he's been, do you think GMPM should say yes to a trade now if we can get back an amazing return? Or do you think we should keep playing out the season and see if he can help us compete for a chance at the playoffs, especially with the Angels showing life by beating our rival Texas teams? We got burned last year by going for it, but the West doesn't seem impossible to beat right now. So I want to hear your takes on what you think the Angels should do with Anderson and the Halos situation currently." Mike, in my opinion, I don't think that anything happens until we get closer to the deadline, because playoff teams become more playoff desperate at that time. And the honest truth of it is, despite his peripherals and the things that say like Anderson should be worse than he's been performing, we need him to keep up the pace that he is at. And the trade deadline to me always has that air of, what have you done for me lately? And so it all depends on what Anderson looks like around the deadline. Look, if he's an all-star and he's the Angels' lone representative this year, then that's going to be a boon for Anderson and the Angels. But the tension right now is Anderson's good now, but the return on Anderson will be better at the deadline. Do you agree?
Yes, absolutely. Because there's going to be an air of desperation, an air of need. And what's also going to dictate if that's a good trade or not is depending on where he goes, because the media is going to say, oh, Yankees, oh, Dodgers, fantastic. But if the Angels traded him to, say, the Mariners or something like that, there would be this narrative around like, well, they kind of gave up and they didn't really get much. But if he goes to a team that the national media likes, then there'll probably be a different narrative. So my point in saying all of that is, don't pay too much attention to the national narrative of what's happening here. I think you're right, John. Wait until you get closer to the deadline. Also, the Angels don't seem to have a plan publicly, and so I'm nervous about if they will make any of these significant trades, because he does have 1 year, including this year, left on his deal. But I think that you have the opportunity to trade Tyler Anderson at the deadline because he's been pitching so well, and teams are going to need extra starting pitching. And if Chase Silseth is healthy, I think that that's a good swap. You bring Silseth in, be in your top 5 rotation, because I think he can be somebody, when healthy, to be a really strong starter. I think you have a strong number 2 in Jose Soriano, who has the potential to be a number 1. Can't believe I'm saying that out loud, but that's really what he's shown us so far. And then you have a lot of number 3s and number 4s. And I think Chase Silseth could maybe rise to that number 2 slot. And so if I'm Perry, I'm looking to make a trade with Tyler Anderson for Tyler Anderson with another team, because I would love to supplement the Kai Bushes that we lost last year in some of those trades when we tried to go for it.
Definitely. Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen today and every day. The Angels are playing the Guardians at the Big A, 6:38 Pacific time. Mike, the Guardians have won 9 of their last 10. So they're coming in hot.
Here we go.
And it's going to be a little bit of a prove-it series. I mean, we had success against Texas and Houston. Let's see what happens this weekend. Sandy is getting the start on the mound, Patrick Sandoval. You can catch every pitch of the Angels hometown broadcast on SiriusXM with the SXM app. Just search Angels. Coming up on Locked On Angels. Should Wash continue to ask his players to bunt, or should it only be certain players that sacrifice bunt? We've got some coach talk coming up, and we'll get into that in just a minute.
Everydayers, you need to download the app Ibotta, because Ibotta is for you. Like, they want to help you. It's a free app that gives you the most cash back every time you shop hundreds of items on groceries, beauty supplies, and toys. What's great about this, Johnny, is Ibotta isn't just stuck to, you have to buy this, or you have to go there, or you have to order it this way. Ibotta is for everybody. And I don't know if you know this or not, but I thought this was an interesting stat. The average Ibotta user earns $256 per year. So if you
I'll
had
take
an
it.
extra, if you had an extra $256, what would you spend that on? Albums? What would you spend that on?
Angels tickets. Duh. Put that money in Artie's pocket. Wait a second. We just got through. Never mind.
Very on brand, Johnny. And so that could cover, they suggest it could cover an entire shopping trip, maybe a flight that you've been eyeing, or a place you've been dying to go to, or maybe just a fancy dinner like at McDonald's, which is more expensive than Chili's right now, which is outrageous. But Ibotta gives you points that really help you out. They have offers in the app. You can upload your receipt and you can get real cash that you can cash out to your bank account using PayPal or gift cards. Over 50 million savers use Ibotta and have earned cash back. And they are connected with like 2,700 plus brands, retailers like Lowe's and Macy's and Sephora and Best Buy. So right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners to Locked On Angels $5 just for trying the app. Use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB when you register. Just go to the Google Play Store or the App Store. Download the free Ibotta app. You can start earning cash back and use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store, and use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB. And Locked On Angels is also brought to you by our new friends here on Locked On Angels, and that's Supply House. Order supplies from the website that's made for the skilled trades. Find thousands of parts from hundreds of brands in just a couple of clicks at supplyhouse.com. Supplyhouse.com gives you 24/7 access to a huge selection of plumbing, HVAC, electrical supplies. Plus, you get fast delivery anywhere in the U.S. And if you need help with an order, John, I love this. You can get industry-leading after-sales service from their friendly and knowledgeable customer service support team. And you get to talk to a real person, Jonathan.
Thank goodness. Real people is where it's at. I can't talk to robots on the phone.
Every single time. And then here's great news for plumbers and technicians and contractors. Being a pro has its perks. So with trade industry professionals, they can join the free Trade Master Program and get free shipping and serious discounts on every order. So over 100,000 pros already use the Trade Master Program, and it's delivering great results. So apply for your membership today and get a competitive edge on every order at supplyhouse.com/TM. That's /TM. And you can save money and time when you order online. Order HVAC, plumbing, electrical supplies at supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Everydayers, check out Locked On Sports Today. It's a free 24/7 streaming program just for you, where you can get all the top stories across the sports world, analysis, opinions, news, all the stuff you like about Locked On Angels, but about the wide world of sports, Michael. It's streaming 24/7 on YouTube and the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Speaking of your team every day, the Angels are playing the Guardians tonight, 6:38 Pacific time. Catch every pitch of the Angels' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search Angels.
Johnny, it's not a FanMail Friday unless we hear from everydayer Tracy in Henderson, and he left us a great voicemail, so let's play that one.
Hey guys, Tracy from Henderson. I don't think I have missed an episode of podcast since you guys took over. I really love the show. On the subject of the closer, I think Estevez should remain the closer. I know that you guys were bitterly disappointed when Matt Wise left the organization, humor intended there. But under Wise, Estevez was an all-star last year. That's not that long ago. I would like to see Barry Enright roll up his sleeves and just sit down and work with Estevez and get him back to where he was. I think that putting the closer position by committee just more often than not does not work. Thoughts? Thanks, guys.
Tracy from Henderson, Nevada. Great to hear from you. He hasn't missed an episode. That's
boy.
An everydayer.
He's in the Locked On Angels Hall of Fame for everydayers.
I love that. I love that. Hey, Tracy, I agree with you. I'd love to see Enright do his thing and work it out with Carlos Estevez because he desperately needs it. We've seen Enright make some serious changes to at least the starting rotation in terms of Griffin Canning figuring things out, Patrick Sandoval eliminating that four-seam fastball and helping Jose Soriano get past the fifth inning. I think that Enright is working hard behind the scenes. And I think his next project has to be Reed Detmers and getting him right and getting him rolling. And when it comes to Estevez, I think that's another area that I could totally see Enright rolling up his sleeves and getting it right. I think to say Estevez was successful and an all-star under Matt Wise, I maybe I'm being biased because I'm just so over Matt Wise, but Mike, I just think that Esty was who he was, not with the help of Matt Wise.
Sure.
Here's what I mean by that. Matt Wise didn't really help anybody that we could see, obviously, right?
Yes.
Of course, he's doing his job behind the scenes and whatnot, but we never saw like really obvious changes with the starting staff. And if there was an obvious change and they spoke about it, it was, hey, Reed, why don't you try to be a ground ball pitcher today? That didn't work. Right. Reed Detmers had to go to the minors to fix his slider at one point. So I guess what I'm saying is I look at what Matt Wise had the chance to do for 4 years, 2021, 2, 3. Yeah, 4 years.
Yeah.
And what Enright has done in a short window. And I will just say, I'm a lot more confident in Carlos Estevez. Mike, at the same time, I don't think Carlos is going to be here at the deadline if the Angels do the right thing and trade some of these valuable pieces away. Closer by committee, does it work? Does it not work? And we talked about it yesterday, maybe Hunter Strickland. Where are you at with all this?
I would love to see a closer by committee because I think that you need to affirm what the young guys have done to get you to the ninth inning, either tied or with the lead. And if they're coming into close, you have the lead. And so many times Esty has come in and has blown that lead, and that's devastating to the confidence of your young guys. And so it's time to really affirm those young guys. You worked really hard to get here. Let me bring in somebody that's going to make sure that we actually win this. It's like a football analogy. I love in football games when teams have worked really hard to stay in the game against better teams and it's tied and you're in overtime. And then coaches are like, you know what? We're going for 2 because we're going to try to win this game right now. And that's what I think this is really boiling down to is you got to go for 2, meaning you got to bring somebody in that you know confidently is going to help your team. We need to put confidence in him. I get that. I think that's appropriate. However, in this instance, I would want my team to be confident in my decisions and who I'm bringing in to try to save the game.
Mike, do you mind reading this next question? Because I'm like on an episode of like ER right now or Chicago PD with all the sirens in the background.
Yes.
My dog was about to go off and howl too.
Okay, so J.5 on Instagram said, what do you think the cause for the discrepancy between home and road records are? So I went and looked at the Angels record and actually their schedule. Johnny, when I look at how the Angels have, or who the Angels have played at home, they played Boston, Tampa Bay, Baltimore, Minnesota, Philadelphia, Kansas City. Like, these are the teams that they've played. Okay. Now, on the road, they have played Boston and Tampa, but they also played Cincy, they played Miami, they played Pittsburgh, and then, of course, they played Texas and Houston. So I think a part of it might just be that they've played some really good teams at home. I also think another piece of this, John, and Wash has talked about this, I think that the guys get overwhelmed in certain situations because they're just new to it. And I think maybe playing in front of the home fans, there might be some more nerves. They might be a bit uncomfortable, and it'll take some time for them to get comfortable. And I'm hopeful that begins tonight against the Guardians.
Yeah. Hey, how about James Russell Barton on Instagram? He said, can we talk about why Wash is taking the bat out of guys' hands? I'm all for manufacturing runs, bunting, stealing, hits, and runs, but you got to be doing it with the right personnel. The Angels have had 4 successful sack bunts this year. It feels like a really small success rate for the amount of times they've tried it. Matt Thaiss is someone that I wouldn't take the bat out of his hands and bunt. Victor Rojas said the other day on Angels Win podcast that Guillorme has only had 7 sack bunts in over 870 plate appearances in his career. Why does Ron insist on setting these guys up for failure? Well, I looked at the numbers here. Now, Baseball Reference doesn't count bunts that happen early in a count and then a guy swings away later. They only include unsuccessful bunts and strikeout bunts. Shawnuel has had 2. Well, I'll say this. He's 2 for 3 in sack bunts. Rengifo is 1 for 1. Moniak is 0 for 1. And Ohapi is 1 for 1. Mike, I look at those names and I agree with James. I don't want to see Matt Thaiss put down a bunt.
Right.
But I could watch Shawnuel put down a bunt. Rengifo, Moniak, Ohapi. Like, those are the names. And I think the proof is in the pudding, right, Mike? That those are the names who can get the job done. And those are the guys that I honestly would go to in the situations where they want to move runners over, they want to do the suicide squeeze or what have you. I'd even say Neto could probably bunt as well. He just hasn't had an official attempt yet, but I'm with James on certain guys should be bunting and certain guys should not.
Hey, it's winner take all time in the NBA and the NHL. They're in the middle of their playoffs, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 that you can spend on the spreads, money lines, player props, so much more. All you do is start with just $5 measly little dollars, and FanDuel is going to hook you up with your great betting knowledge. And if you don't know about betting, FanDuel has a great app and a great website that'll give you all of the instructions and all of the directions. You can visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Go to that website. That way they know that you came from Locked On Angels, and you can make every playoff moment count. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook.
Couple more questions on this edition of Fan Mail Friday on Locked On Angels. Aggie Nicky on Instagram has a question about prospects. He says, is there a prospect you think will make their MLB debut before the All-Star break, Mike? The one that comes to mind for me, and actually he's still ranked number 4 in the Angels' top 30, is Ben Joyce.
Yeah.
I can definitely see Ben Joyce coming up in some sort of relief role because he's been there before. As far as the rest of the prospects, I don't think any of them first are near the level or the age they need to be coming up and playing. Now, Kyron Paris technically is still a top 30 prospect, so there's one that we have seen.
Yeah.
But after the All-Star break, look, if they sell off a bunch of pieces and trade the guys that we think that they will trade, they might give a look to a bunch of the arms. Like the other day you mentioned the Trash Pandas bullpen. Maybe even somebody like Caden Dana. Now, I am a huge advocate of leaving Caden Dana alone.
Yeah.
Let him pitch for the Trash Pandas. Don't bring him up. I don't want to see him when the Angels are like, well, we're trying to compete. We need all the arms. No, let this kid develop. He's going to be an elite pitcher if they leave him alone, let him develop. If they bring him up in September because they've traded everybody away and they just want to give him a look, fine. But in my opinion, he needs to stay in the minors, let that guy develop and cook down there.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, MLB debut, meaning that they haven't been up yet. If I'm thinking about some of those names, I'm thinking like maybe Eric Torres or Mason Urla. I could see them coming up and maybe filling in some roles if they do trade away some of these bullpen guys. Johnny Jose Zamora on Instagram said, at this point, why not have Taylor Ward DH full time? I get the analytics saying that he's just average in left field, but he looks bad to the eye test. Yes, Jose, he does. He plays scared, in my opinion, looks so afraid to make a mistake, and he just lets the runners advance. Johnny, I agree. I feel like he just doesn't seem very confident out there right now. And I don't know if that's just how he plays. I know there's a lot of comps to like Garrett Anderson out there, but it just seems like Ward gets lost really quick or doesn't know the situation. What do you think?
It's so strange to me because you and I have often said Taylor Ward plays a safe brand of left field, right? He's in the outfield. He's going to make the plays that he should make. He's not going to dazzle you with a diving play, though he did have one this year. I got to check in on his outs above average and see where it sits. At the same time, Mike, that, like I said yesterday, that Crawford box wall just spun him around out there. But the other issue is, and to Jose's point, I don't even think that he's playing scared. It just doesn't seem like he knows what to do. And what I mean by that is hit your cutoff man, dude. Hit your second baseman, your third baseman, your shortstop, whoever is receiving at the cutoff. And he just, that hesitation the other night, I can't explain it.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's taken the time to explain it. I might have missed an article where they talked about it, but it just didn't make any sense to me to come up with that ball and then wonder where you're supposed to throw it. That's not what you do as a left fielder. Mike Callum Ramirez on Instagram said, who should be getting more playing time, Pilar or Moniak? What did you have to say about this one?
I think it's Moniak, and I know that Pilar's playing really, really well. He's doing what a backup guy is ideally supposed to do, but I want to see Moniak get some at-bats because Moniak is a good hitter who needs consistent at-bats. We saw that last year. And if we're trying to win, then it makes sense why you have Pilar in there. I think that you can use Pilar as kind of an incentive for Moniak. Like, bro, I want you to be in there. This guy keeps hitting. I need you to outperform him. So take advantage of the opportunities. The reason why I would say, again, for Moniak is because he's going to be around a lot longer than Kevin Pilar will be around.
I get that, but it feels real good to win, man. And it feels real good when Pilar does something good. Dune Skies on Instagram said, when Trout comes back, what do you think happens to Pilar? He's been such a bright light. Honestly, because he got the $1 million major league deal and Willie Calhoun got the minor league deal before the season. I would have to get into the details about the options there and the ability to move guys. But the truth is I believe Pilar has earned the 4th outfield spot that was claimed by Aaron Hicks to start this season, because it's exactly what you wanted in Aaron Hicks. Somebody to offset Moniak when there's a lefty on the mound, somebody who can step in and be productive. And he's doing all the things that that Hicks didn't do. And he's a veteran. And I think he's a good guy to have around these young guys. So I think that it goes to Pilar, even though Calhoun has been great. Now, they did try Calhoun over at first base, right? And he's been a second baseman in a former life, as a big leaguer. So there are some options there as well. But I think out of the guys that we have right now, I think Pilar stays. Calhoun would go back to the minors. Again, I would have to check to see if that's even possible. At the same time, that we will cross that bridge when we get to, crossing that trout pond over that bridge. We'll get there eventually.
Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. The Angels play the Guardians, 6:38 Pacific time, and you can catch every pitch of the Angels hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search Angels.
Hey, give us a follow at Locked On Angels on Twitter and at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. Whether you're watching or listening to today's show, come on over to YouTube, find the episode, get in the comments section. We'd love to hear your thoughts on anything that was shared today. Hit that like button on the way down there, because what that does is it puts our show in front of other Angels fans who are browsing YouTube and might not know about Locked On Angels. And you guys have been doing such a fantastic job with that it's been really helping out Mike and I. And Mike, what do we have on deck for Monday's show?
Well, as you mentioned, the Guardians are hot. And so the Angels are going to have to do something against them this weekend. And we're going to recap in detail all of the games from this weekend on Monday on Locked On Angels.
Look, we know it's Memorial Day, and thank you to those who have served, but it's also a day of remembrance this weekend. And of course, on Monday for those who are no longer with us, who have served as well. But Mike and I will be here on Monday, so we hope you enjoy what probably is a day off for you, and we'll be here recapping the weekend for you. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Thanks for being here with us, everybody, and we'll see you back here on Monday.